So, hey guys, Emma again. Welcome back to the spare room. Welcome back to this little indicator holder build. I had a bit of a think about this. Can't make this part because I haven't got the steel yet. It's sort of on its way. Which leaves parts left to make is this piece that this little nut screws on with the dovetail in it, and the 60-degree taper in the end, or this piece with the spindle that goes in the collet, whichever. Or these pieces, which is the pins that press into this plate. Now, I'm not going to make this yet, I don't think, because a couple of reasons. These have got to really fit these holes, and it's much easier to make spindles that fit here than to bore these to match the spindles. Also, the taper needs to seat properly in here, and it's much easier to make the holes and then machine this to fit the taper. So I think it's these parts that we need to make next. Now, these are 12mm square, and it's 42 chrome moly 4140. Pretty hard. Got some of that. Got plenty of it. That's what this is. And they need to be, what, one's 30mm, one's 35 and one's 30mm long. So I guess the first thing is to make a square. That'll be the first thing if we set this up and mill a square on the end of our piece of block. 12mm square. And then I think probably the way to do it will be, when that's done, bit hard to visualise. So what I'm going to do is put a square on the end of this and come back, and we'll have a bit of a look at what we can do here to actually make probably the two most complicated parts in the whole build. A lot of these operations are the same, so maybe we should make them in two videos. So basically the first video will be making this end, and the other video will be making the other end. That's probably pretty straightforward, I think. But we only really need to put a square on up to there. Let's do that first. So first job really is to square up the stock. A bit of work in this because it's hard stock and I haven't got a carbide cutter. I probably have a carbide end mill, and I could do this quite easily with a carbide end mill, but surface finish isn't going to be as nice. And I would have had to change the arbor across to the ER32 collet chuck, and then find an end mill and clean it up. And that might have been an easier way to do it, but I've got this side and face cutter, and I'll clean this up, and I'll clean this side up, and then we can set it up on the parallels and get the top down the face and get it to size. Not a crazy difficult job, it's just going to take me a while. I've been 3 or 4 hours at it already, and I've got one piece done. Let's get in and make both these little pieces square. They're only tiny bits of steel, and then we can have a bit of a look at what else needs to be done. So we've got 2 bits of stock. They're both the same size. They're about 0.02 or something under 12mm, which is close enough. They're pretty hard 4140. And they took a fair bit of messing around to do. Can't give a lot of advice about square and hump stock, you're on your own there, but deburr after every operation is important, and check and check and check and check and check and check, and you'll end up with something that looks pretty good. And these, no matter which way you slice them, seem to be pretty square, and I'm really happy with that. So in this video, we're just going to do this end of these. There's that one and there's that one, looking at the drawing. These need to be bored and the taper put in. We're going to use a centre drill to do that. I think this is about 4.8, so a 5mm reamer should clean that up nicely through there. If we use this to start them off to a given depth. And then drill them right through 4.9 and bore and ream them. Then we need to put a round on here, so we'll have a bit of a think about how to do that, but we're going to probably machine around on there, and this needs to be in the centre here this way. That's fairly critical. It's not critical, but if they're off centre they're going to look crap. So we could probably just mark them out on the surface plate and carefully centre punch them if you're good at that. And do it, and you could mark the radius round and you could clean them up on the sander. That would work, but let's see what we can do. So thing is to clean up the mill. So get over there and set these up, find the centre this way and the end this way, move it in, and take the time to drill them and to machine these holes to size. So managed to get this camera set up somewhere near the mill. I put the centre finder in. What we're going to do is use the half function on the DRO, which is one of those scary extra features that nobody ever uses until you use it the first time, and then you use it all the time. So that saves the maths. If we just touch this off and measure this and then work out halfway, we've got to take half of this and add the half of that and then move it and hope it's in the middle. If we touch this side and this side, then and use the half function, when we're back on zero, we're on zero, and there's no other way around it. So that's the smart way to do it. If we wind that up till it just pops off there, do that again. That should be pretty good. And then we press the 0 on the Y. I haven't got enough camera reach to show you this, so you're going to have to take my word for it. And then all we have to do is press the Y button and the half button, and move back down to 0, and that's our 0 point. Now I've left this a little bit inside the jaws because sitting this down on the parallels on this part of the vise is better than having it poking out the edge, because you're much more likely to get it parallel and square. So I'm just going to touch this off on the vise and call that our end point. And we'll call that 0 too. And because this is 12mm square, we need to go another millimetre because this is 10mm diameter. In the middle of that's 5 already. And that's the centre. At some point you realise that this milling cutter's going backwards and you laugh, but it's a bit of a pity because it's not particularly good for drills. At some point we need some sort of control because this is 11 millimeters and we only really want our taper to be 10 millimeters diameter or a bit less. So because we're going to be taking this drill out and drilling and reaming this one before we put the next one in and then finding the right position again and putting this back in, there's not any real control about depth, so we can't measure it. However, I've got a piece of 1mm brass strip here. It's about 1.2 probably. Whatever it is, it'll do. It looks about right. That come from our Stephen Lang a little while ago. So thanks, Stephen, for that. So I'm going to just use that as a spacer for how far my taper and my drill's sticking out. And try and get the other one close to the same. And to me that looks pretty jolly good there. So time to take this drill out. We'll change the collet and we'll drill him through 4.9 and then we might just drill in 5mm with a nice new drill, and that's going to be close enough for the diameter on this. We don't have enough space here to put that reamer in. We probably do, but I don't have a Morse 1 to 2 taper to hold it, and to put it in this has got to come back a lot further than there's room for. So I'm just going to get a very close sized drill. Take this out. I'm going to mark this side because they may be different on each end. So I'm going to put a mark on this, just a piece of tape on it. Just like that, so we know which end we used last time. And we've got a 4.9mm drill, which is going to be nice, I think. And it's always good to see that come through in the middle again on the other side. That's always a very comforting thing, I find. Then we can drill right through. And take him out and have a bit of a look. If it's all up to speed and looking great, we might do the other one as well. And there we've got a 60-degree taper in there. I'll give this a bit of a clean up. And a hole all the way through. So that's done. We've got to still round the tops on these, which isn't a huge deal. But we might have to make up a jig to do it. And I'll come back when I've got the other one done as well. So I was reluctant to film this because the system I use for putting the round corners on these is nothing less than sketchy. It works, and cosmetically it looks pretty good. Geometrically it's probably not perfect, but they'll do the job nicely. I've taken a fair bit off here with an end mill. I've set this up on centre this way, and I've zeroed this here. I made a jig here, a long nut with a bolt and a sacrificial washer, and we're just going to wind this in and lock the bed this way and lock the bed this way and wind it round with the rotary table fairly cautiously to take the tops off. anyway, that's what we got. They're not too shabby at all. One of these got a tiny nick, and I ended up sanding and filing it out. Just there, I've almost got it. In hindsight, a much more sensible way to do these would have been to make a couple of hard filing buttons and putting a bolt through them and finishing them up on the belt finisher. That would have been the quickest and easiest and best way to do that. So anyone who's thinking about how to do this job, probably on a vertical mill, there are easier ways. You could interpolate it, or with the DRO, or you could probably just mark them very carefully and file them round. But probably the easiest way to do these would be to make a couple of hard buttons, bolt them all up nicely, and run them on the belt finisher until you get them smooth. That would be the best way to do it. So I've done it this way, and they're not really perfect, but they're not too bad. Both the holes are the same both the holes are the same depth, and we've got this piece. This is just a bolt, and it's not even a particularly good bolt. It's been shortened up at some point for some use. And a nut. So that's all looking pretty neat and tidy and nice. I'm really happy with that. I'm going to call this video done. Next job, I think, is probably to finish these. So this one just needs to be machined down to a 6mm shank on the end. That's a straightforward job. So a couple of little tricks with it, but I think it'll be easy. And this one needs machining down, and it needs a thread on it as per the drawing, and then a bit more of a shoulder on the end and a dovetail in it. So next job will be to do those, and then when this screws on there, we should have this bit fitting on the indicator and this bit ready to go in a collet. Getting towards we're certainly past the halfway mark, and it's not a particularly big job. I've broken this up into videos of parts that are going to take sort of half a day in the workshop to finish with a bit of care, or try to. So hopefully inspire someone to get out and actually build one, or build something, and get yourself motivated again. Thanks for watching. If you're watching on YouTube, thanks for the like and the subscribe. Really appreciate that, and give us a thumbs up. If you're like watching it on Patreon, a huge thanks to you guys. You know who you are. Really appreciate that. So more soon, guys and girls, and be kind to each other.